Imagine having an AI-powered search engine for candidate profiles from across the open web and even from within your own ATS. Well, that's exactly what HireTool is. HireTool is a global talent platform that serves all recruiters, from small businesses to the world's largest enterprises. And with 750 million plus profiles from over 45 open web sources and channels and 30 plus integration partners, there's literally something for everyone. Recruiters can find more talent with AI sourcing, send unlimited emails, and integrate with your favorite recruitment tools all in one platform. If you're spending hours looking for qualified candidates, underrepresented talent, and updated contact information, then HireTool is probably what you need for your toolkit. HireTool is a platform that helps great recruiters accomplish more every single day. Check them out at HireTool.com.
What's up, friends? Chris Dunn, HR Famous. Happy to be back with you. Just sharing the good news of all things HR, talent acquisition, and talent management related. Anyway, regardless of the flavor you're looking for, I have two friends who are experts, JLee and Tim Sackett. As always, I'll start with JLee. Jessica, how are you? And more importantly, are your kids back to school, and how is that going?
I'm excellent. I went on vacation. I put an out-of-office response on. I'm back. I'm rested. I'm rejuvenated.
Okay.
So what's not to like?
Turks and Caicos, right? Like I've never been.
I mean, I don't want to,
No
go
big
on
deal.
about
No big deal.
my lifestyle, because I'm a person of I'm everyone. I'm of the people.
Sure.
Hey Tim. So she was sending us pictures from her trip.
Yeah.
And in my everyman type of way, I wanted to respond to one of the text streams, and I wanted to say, "Is that a catamaran?" But then suddenly I had low self-esteem, and I thought I might be wrong, Tim, so I didn't respond to Jessica. Jessica, please continue.
It was a catamaran, but I'm good, and kids are not back to school yet, but we are preparing. Oh, they're back to school.
You're upset about that?
I'm nervous for them. It's like first day jitters. They haven't been in person in so long.
Yeah, it's been a while. Now they're both of the age, including your youngest son, that'll go to physical school like all day. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're gonna be out of the house.
It's needed.
Oh, it is needed, though.
It's needed.
Yeah.
Got it. Tim Sackett.
Yeah.
It is needed. You know what else is needed? An update on your life. Like you've got a senior. Is that correct? Like I do?
Yeah.
We
and
both have
last one in the house will be empty
through.
nesters, man. Like, can't wait.
Empty nest.
By the way, my wife tried to, here's what happens, JLee, is you have these two beautiful, wonderful children that Katie and I rave about. One day you're going to wake up and go, my children are assholes.
They already are, by the way.
No, they're not. They're child assholes. Wait till they become like young adult assholes. And so my wife tried to talk my youngest son into actually graduating in December so that we could get him out of the house faster. Now, again, he's a perfectly normal, like, teenage boy that, is smart and involved, but he's an asshole. And his brothers were assholes at the same age. And then about 22, 23, all of a sudden they realize that they were assholes and they become normal people. And you love to have them back. So we're at that point, Katie, where it's time to get the asshole out of the house. And we have a full year. My wife keeps telling me, I don't think I can make it.
So that's interesting. I have the quiet one of my two who's still in the house. So, it kind of depends, right? Like on the personality of the oldest one and the youngest one. So I'm not saying my oldest one is what you just described.
No,
certainly he has more opinions
than
the youngest one does. So it's just quiet here.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for the invariable quarantines to come down. Mm-hmm. Right? Kind of quarantine bingo.
Yeah.
If you will. And I scoured our school system's website just to get a sense for if the quarantine rules had changed now that vaccines are in play, et cetera, et cetera. They're kind of withholding information on the scoop and on the game plan. So, shocker. Shocker.
I mean,
on that.
they're not withholding, though. They just don't know.
Probably.
Like, they
fair.
don't know.
You're on a need-to-know basis, Katie. We'll tell you.
And by the way, so I'll just say this in terms of they don't know, because do any of us really know what time it is with any of this? There was a report out of UAB, which is the biggest employer in the state of Alabama, that said 40% of the state population was going to get COVID between July and September, just because of the Delta variant.
Yeah.
And the expert went on to say, but only a minority of those people will be symptomatic.
Yeah.
In my head, I wish everybody could see the video that we have right now, because my head just kind of like, I couldn't like contemplate like what that meant. Like, because I get 40%, but the fact that like most of those folks, and this is clearly in the schools as well, especially in the schools, most of those folks will be asymptomatic. I don't know. It's just like, then you go back through all the guidance that we've received, and again, does anyone really know?
KD, we all got the announcement. The HR Technology Conference decided, like, hey, you have to be able to prove you're vaccinated, right? Have come with a Vax card or like a negative test within 20. I didn't really read the announcement. It was more of
you read the subject line of the email.
I'm like every other person in the world. I just read the headline. It was like, and then make a like
influence me through the headline.
My God,
I hope it's correct.
I'm gaslighted. And so, but my mind, I'm like going, dang, like that's a big announcement, because whether you're SHRM or LRP or any of these conference companies, you are in the business to make money. You are in the business to stand in the middle of the fence and get everybody into the tent that is willing to pay. Like that's your entire job. And for them to cut out, 40, 50% of the country, that might not be vaccinated, and say you're not welcome, that's a big deal. That's like taking a stance, which I'm like, wow. So whether you agree or disagree, it's a big stance.
And they've clearly made the choice that their path to the biggest audience possible is through that guidance.
For sure.
Right?
Yep.
Rather than, I think as soon as the word started coming down that people who are fully vaccinated can still like test positive for COVID.
Yeah.
I think people started like circling, trying to figure it out.
Well, I was talking to a vendor today that backed out, and again, the three of us are going to be speaking at HR Tech. At least at this point, we're planning on speaking at HR Tech, and we have many times. We're big fans of the conference, but a vendor was like, yeah, we're not going to make it, but part of it is we didn't understand. Like, okay, so you have to be vaccinated, or prove that you're negative. And you walk into the conference, but then you walk out the doors of the conference into a casino where nobody has to be vaccinated. Like, what's the difference?
Wah, wah, wah.
And the only way, by the way, you can get from your hotel room to the conference is to walk through that cesspool of Vegas.
Right. It's so true.
It's
a tough scene.
You've been there, JLee. It's a cesspool.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's all of Las Vegas. By the way, I would like to just pat myself on the back for knowing the "does anyone really know what time it is" reference. That would be some Chicago.
It's amazing.
Right there.
Yes. Thank you,
I thought
JLee.
you guys would appreciate that. That's
You're
my go-to.
Yeah.
That's my go-to karaoke.
You're not a Gen X,
Chicago.
or obviously you're not a boomer, but you're not Gen X either. But it's good that you're a Renaissance woman.
I'm geriatric millennial, right?
Geriatric millennial.
And you're next. And you're next. Like every one of your cohort is next.
Can't wait.
All right, so let's get to it. Got a couple topics for you. First one, we're going to talk about Google. And JLee and Tim, Google's rolled out a new internal calculator. By the way, spoiler alert, we're talking about pay grades from a compensation perspective. So, if you're not interested in that, just click off the podcast now. But I know you want to hang around because Google's involved.
No, they don't have to click off. You don't click off. You can just fast forward.
Yeah, that was probably not well played by me. Yeah, just scroll. Google's rolled out a new internal calculator to explain potential pay cuts to employees who choose to work remotely. And shocker alert, people are getting penalized. So there were screenshots obtained by Reuters that show that Google employees, I got two scenarios for you, JLee and Tim. Google employees that previously commuted an hour to Google's Manhattan offices from nearby Stamford, Connecticut, for example, now that they're work from home from Stamford, would see their salaries slashed by 15% if they chose to continue to work from home. By contrast, Googlers who made the same decision not to go into Manhattan and lived in one of the 5 boroughs of New York, let's say Brooklyn, would not see their pay cut at all. So the screenshot showed between 5 and 10% differences for commuters who opted not to go in the office in the Seattle, Boston, and San Francisco areas. One other example that I think is a good one, Google employees who moved even further away from the company's offices have been warned that they could face even harsher pay cuts. One example that was in the screenshots obtained by Reuters was a worker who left San Francisco for Lake Tahoe. Shout out to Lake Tahoe, another expensive area of California. And by the way, you go right across to Nevada and it gets cheaper. Anyway, those folks would have their pay cut by a whopping 25%. That would mean, Jessica, as I come to you for reactions, that individual would have their pay cut from $150,000 to like roughly $112,000 just because they're working from home from beautiful, scenic Lake Tahoe. So, JLee, we are at the merge of traditional pay grade, geographical code, compensation data with a new era of work. What say you?
Well, first, I'd like to thank Google for being, first mover on this front by making the decision to really take into account location when it comes to pay grades and innovating in this space by developing a calculator for it, because someone had to do it first and gauge the reaction of the public, and we now get to learn from it. So I want to thank Google for their innovation and just being first mover in this space, because now we know like ups and downs, like the pitfalls of it, or how much stress our employee population can take by something like this. So hats off for being first mover. I like it.
JLee with the positive thumbs up.
If Google just put it out there, right? Just like on the homepage, like, hey,
like the little game, instead of like a little like game on the Google homepage, just the salary calculator.
They could just put salary.com out of business like in 1 second,
Tim,
actually, what they could also do is integrate this into Google Maps as a product where you're like using Google Maps to get directions somewhere, and you can also see how much would I get paid.
It would be cool if it also like took out like their taxes and you just saw the drop like in your biweekly pay. That would be cool too. Tim, do you think are they using Sheets for this? Like, are they using Google Sheets? And I'm assuming they have comments turned off.
Yeah,
where no one can. I'm assuming that's a locked sheet, right?
I'm sure it's a locked form of some sort, right? There's no way that they're doing that. Katie, this is all based on some failed like thought processing by employees, right? So here's the thought processing. I'm getting paid to do a job, and it shouldn't matter where I do that job. I should get paid the same. And so that's this belief, right, that everyone's losing their minds on. But the reality is there's more than one thing about the job. It's the job itself. So there's a level of money you're going to pay somebody to do a job. And then there's a level of money that you're paying them because of where you're asking them to do the job. And so, the examples are San Francisco, New York, two of the most expensive places to live in the entire world, versus, let's say, coming to Lansing, Michigan, where I am. Like, people, you go, look, you are getting paid $150 because we hired you to work in San Francisco. The pandemic allowed you to move back home with mom and dad in Lansing, Michigan. We are not going to continue to pay you $150,000 to work in Lansing, Michigan, because that market doesn't substantiate that pay level. And people just don't get that concept. They go, no, you were paying me that much in San Francisco. You should keep paying me that much. You're like, no, this is insane. Now, the Lake Tahoe example to me is just, that's comp data that's imperfect, and it's always been that way, plus it's trailing. So you're going, hey, I'm moving to Lake Tahoe, California, but we all know that it's really Lake Tahoe, Nevada, the greater areas where we're getting that market data, right? Which, lends itself to that 25% decrease, which also is just, there's probably not a lot of data in Lake Tahoe, so it's just imperfect for a lot of those tech roles,
When I looked at this, JLee, I'm a traditional Gen X HR person, TA professional. And I grew up with geographic grades.
So wait, you're an HR person, but you're a TA professional. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Yes.
And a Gen Xer.
I'm an HR citizen. But so like
you work in
a lot of
personnel.
us here's where this is turning me a little bit, okay? Here's where like I'm actively listening now. I thought, like, first of all, if you move, and I think the San Francisco to Lake Tahoe thing is a real thing, as is Montana, Idaho, whatever. You packed up and moved because you got away. Like, I get that, and that fits my traditional like vibe of it. But then I put people side by side in Manhattan, and somebody's like driving an hour, and they're not doing that anymore, and somebody lives across, the river in New Jersey, lives in Brooklyn, whatever, and they get no change. And then all of a sudden, that kind of like perks my ears up to say, huh, that's interesting. Because this whole thing, like what we didn't factor in when we first started talking about this, we didn't factor in commute versus hard move.
Yeah.
Right? We didn't really think about that. We were thinking about people who just got the hell out of the city and packed up their family and moved to like where other family was and just started working from there. We didn't really think about just the normal commute. And by the way, isn't the normal commute, I guess it's not in Stanford, but certainly the Seattle like reference, JLee, that's a norm. I'm assuming that's a normal commute into the Seattle metropolitan area that like got those people a 10% reduction, right? I mean, wouldn't you think that?
Yeah. Knowing that area, it's not like that's not uncommon. But I like, even though you joke about me being optimistic about it, like this is a hard decision for a company and HR professional or citizen of the world to have to make. And so I actually, like, someone's got to go first, and then we got to learn from it. And if I think about what Google has done in the past, like this is a stab in a direction that they feel like is the right one, but they'll probably swing a pendulum another way if there's enough negative press or enough people quit or they finally unionize and something happens there. So,
hey, this is William Tincup. Listen, we did a series for iSolved called Heroes of HR, where we talk to HR practitioners. And these are just your run-of-the-mill, everyday, slogging it out, 300 employees in Cedar Rapids, HR pros. Mostly it's centered around iSolved and what they do with iSolved, but also they talk a lot about kind of the day-to-day rigor of HR. If you're curious about that, search for Heroes of HR wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you.
I think this is just, it's a simple economics exercise, right? You're going to find people in companies that make decisions, and people will gravitate and find, it's like a union job, right? Where someone goes, oh, if I work that job, I get paid 25 cents less, but I also can work 10 hours of overtime. So ultimately, I mean, everyone will find a way to take advantage of the system, and the system constantly is self-correcting. And I think this is one of those, right? Someone's going to find out, Katie, your Brooklyn example. Okay, I'm going to go to New York, and I don't get a pay cut, but I can still work from home in Brooklyn and get top pay. I don't have to pay a commute. I don't have to spend an hour on the train. Life is going to be great. Eventually, the system will find that out and reduce that pay. Like that will happen,
Yeah, it's still part of the same metro, so I don't know that will happen quick. Hey, the other thing I would just bring up to both of you is let's don't kid ourselves, right? Google, like one of the articles I read, and I believe this to be true, right? Google pays at the top of the market. So all of these folks, super talented people, I mean, they are like operating, I'm sure they work like super hard for it, but they are operating from a certain position of privilege, like working from Google. Like, and privilege is like a word that's used a lot of different ways these days, but this is kind of to JLee's point, like Google's kind of drawing a line in the sand, and ultimately the market will decide, which is what both of you have said in different ways. The market's going to decide. If you want that developer that moved to Lake Tahoe, like go get them. And you now know that you've got you could pay 13% lower than Google used to in San Francisco, pick up some great talent. And that's probably $20,000 more than you would normally spend. But you can go get that developer if you can find them. And the market will decide, right? These people will move. If it's really in their best interest to move, these people will move and jump to other companies. And I guess we'll figure it out. I just wish we could follow the migration, right?
Yeah, it's so much entitlement built into this, because what happened was you had this once in a lifetime, knock on wood, let's hope, pandemic happen, and people got accustomed to living in a low rent area, making top dollar, and all of a sudden now the system's adjusting, and they're like, no, wait a minute, you can't take money away from me,
So we'll keep our eye on it. JLee, anything else?
I
Looks
just
like you were
wonder,
coming in.
I feel like they're going to sell this as a product, though. That's how their Google ATS came about. That's how Google Jobs came about. And when you look at the screenshots, it's a work from home tool. It's actually pretty slick. And they've got a lot of data, including around geography and whatever, that can help power this. And so we're going to see this being sold.
The hard part though is it's like Katie said, it's at the top of the market from a pay rate standpoint. So no employer is going to want to use this, and every employee is going to want to use it because they're going to go, oh, I'm worth this much, and you're not paying me that much.
Oh no! So the sell will be we give you the product off the shelf. You need to plug in your
data.
Pay ranges, your data, but you can use their geographic and the skinning of it. I love it. And then at the end of the day, you just hit submit. You say, this is what I'm doing. It's like an automated workflow.
Nice.
This is amazing.
Hey, I'm sure Google, when their employees use the calculator, I'm sure Google's not tracking any of that activity, right?
Of course not.
It's like
Big brother.
I'm in the home office, and I'm like, hey, you know what? Tim Sackett has opted out of our last 2 quarterly meetings where we got together with masks and everything. Johnny, would you mind pulling me his network data?
Yeah,
I just want to see it.
See
and then all of a sudden I
calculator.
see him typing in Lansing, Michigan, and I'm like, mother son of a gun. What's going on? I got him. All right, so
Big brother's always watching.
Let's change topics. So for the Google people, if you are not inspired by a pay cut because you moved to Lake Tahoe, one of the things that somebody's out there pitching a little bit, and this is kind of a thing, is the perspective of as we move to remote work, do people naturally, is there a small percentage of the population that naturally migrates to take on a second job while they work from their virtual desktop? So I think both of you saw this, but yeah. there's an individual that's coming out with his or her story about working 2 remote jobs, and the site is called overemployed.com, and there's a book coming out. You can pre-order the book, overemployed.com. The tagline, JLee, is work 2 remote jobs, period, reach financial freedom. So this individual is kind of the sizzle coming out with this, came up with 12 rules. This is 12 rules for working 2 remote jobs. I'm just going to rattle them off. Number 1, shocker, don't talk about working 2 remote jobs. As it turns out,
the first rule of Fight Club is what?
Yeah, exactly. You guys just come in and out as I'm reading these. This is the right way to do it. if you brag about having multiple remote jobs, that's probably a bad thing. Number 2, don't fall in love with your second job. So, it's just a means.
But isn't that
end.
there's an assumption there that the first job is really the moneymaker and your second job is just icing on the cake?
Which would be like, hustle culture.
Sure.
Have your second thing. Although if you read into some of these examples, they're like full on.
Yeah.
Like 2 jobs,
For
right?
sure.
I have a laptop from company A, a laptop from company B, and away we go. Side note, I would tell you that I've had a conversation in the last month about an employee's performance with one of our managers, and it's actually before this came out, and responsiveness was an issue. I'm like I listened to kind of the back and forth. I'm like, think he's got another job?
And by the way, you just deliver my Uber Eats? What?
Well, yeah, correct. And I do know for a fact, I have somebody in my sphere, and this happened like 3 or 4 years ago, that was working, not at Kinetics, by the way, but was a recruiter for 2 different RPO firms. And it just so happened that a couple of people from both of those companies got together, and they were talking about something, and they figured it out. Go ahead, Tim.
No, we hear this constantly in our industry of people who have started recruiting firms, were working at an Amazon or a Google as a recruiter, and then started their own firm while they were working at those companies remotely. And then when they got to the point where their own firm was producing enough money, they jetted out of the corporate gig and then just fully launched. And you're like, because you can't launch with $1 million in revenue, right? Like they're launching and you're like, wait a minute, you've been working on this for a while.
Right. For sure. All right, let me give you a couple of others. JLee, jump in here. Number 3, the third rule of not Fight Club, but 2 jobs, 2 remote jobs.
The 2-job club.
Do your own research and don't rely on others. It's kind of broad. I'll keep going. Have a clear and focused goal. Bobby J would like this. It's all about financial freedom. Like when you do that, you're building the nest egg, right? Have an exit strategy as a complement to a focused goal. This from the site, things aren't always going to turn out the way you want. No, you know what.
Get to number 7. I like 7.
Number 6, I'm coming to you, JLee. Number 6, get what you want by giving people what they want. It's all about perception. By the way, some people will want things like a quality conversation, Tim and JLee, over actual performance. Number 7, this is where JLee wants to come in. Really grab my attention as well. Be average. JLee, go.
This is where the whole thing falls apart for me. Like having 2 jobs as a path to financial freedom. You want financial freedom, do a good job at job number 1 and kick butt in it and keep growing and get promoted and make some money. Don't be average. I just don't even like encouraging to be average. The whole thing falls apart here for me.
But there is
falls apart for you, but that's because you're an overachiever, JLee.
It's the Gen X and JLee coming out, because if you think about like that average B-level player, I mean, they never. All you're trying to do is be the tallest of the 7 dwarfs, right? You just want to be like, hey, I just want to be just enough where no one's gonna pay attention to me, and I'm just gonna keep doing the work, and I got 2 jobs paying me. Like, heck yes, here we go.
Out of all of these, Tim and JLee, be average is the key advice, because if you're trying to hold down 2 full-time jobs, not a hustle culture, build your own thing. If you're trying to do 2 full-time jobs, you are going to lack in responsiveness at times, right? And you have to get just over that be average cliff. But JLee, none of us are actually advocates for 2 jobs. We agree with you, but it's interesting. By the way, what's your take, JLee? Total number of work from home professionals, what do you think the percentage is that are doing 2 jobs?
Well, if you exclude parenting as the second job, because that is a second full-time job.
Let's exclude it.
I don't know, 10%.
Ooh, you went 10%. 10% maybe with hustle culture, but like 2 full-time jobs with paperwork, you have to go through new hire paperwork to get started. Tim, what do you think?
Less than 1%.
I'm going to say it's 1% even.
1% even.
1 out of 100's working 2 jobs.
Yeah, 1 out of 100 is doing it.
And that's not like first shift, second shift, 2 jobs.
So there.
Well, remember, it's work from home remote. So it's 2 laptops and you're dealing with the incoming and away we go. Oh, by the way, the other big important thing, I'll come to you in a second, Tim. By the way, this is not listed, but in some of the reading, this is key. Say no to every meeting that you can. Get out of the meeting business is the key thing, right? And what I saw in some of the write-ups, Tim and JLee, is it would say things like, hey, I got your meeting request. This sounds more like an email than a meeting. So let me give you what I can, like now. And you just have to be bold and not want to be in meetings. Tim, what'd you have?
No, this does speak a little bit to, I think, a lot of executives they're fearful of the work from home thing because they don't truly believe people are working 40 hours.
Right.
And again, that in itself is an old paradigm to think hours versus production, right? And so you're going like, wait a minute, if someone's actually working 2 jobs, even if they're, let's say, just average, they're probably going to be working 70 to 80 hours a week. And we know that that's not the case, right? These people are probably working 40, 50 hours, getting paid by 2 companies. And I think that's where like this whole paradigm of work and hours just totally unravels. And I just don't know if executives, I mean, there's no way they're willing to accept that kind of thing.
Right.
But
and a lot of that comes back to performance management too. Based on the job, can you actually really measure it?
So we had this happen to us with a contractor. So we had a contractor, and because it's not with us anymore, he was working on over at Michigan State on site, or not on site. It was off site, but he was doing like IT work, programming, and all of a sudden his manager that was on site started like emailing us and saying, "Hey, unresponsive," or the turnaround wasn't fast enough. And so we started calling the guy, blah, blah, blah. Turns out he's working in Chicago on site at a company, full-time job. Now, so we just go, hey, we'll get rid of him. We'll find somebody else. That's what we do. And they're like, no. Like his work is great. Like his work is better than a lot of the work we're getting from our own people. Mm-hmm. We just need him to be more responsive. We don't give a crap that he's working another full-time job.
Amazing. So selfless of that client of yours, Tim. Just say, we'll take what he can give. We just need him to answer calls. All right, let me finish a couple of these out. Have no ego, be wrong to be rich. A lot of these are really, I don't know, it's kind of broad-based, kind of lame. Number 10, live to work another day. The rule here is to survive to work another day. JLee, do your work. Meet expectations, JLee. Don't do extra.
Yes.
And don't get terminated. 11, always seek to improve, whatever. And then number 12, the most important rule is do not talk about Fight Club / working 2 remote jobs. So I think it's interesting. What they didn't put in here that I read about, I already mentioned, is don't take any meetings because it's gonna further lower your response time. I think it's like 1%. And JLee, I agree with you. The percentage is higher. Like that person that's working from home and is kicking around being a realtor, for example.
Yeah.
Right? That's out there. Or, a blogger. You know how those people are.
Mm-hmm. The comments are really golden, though, I have to say. Like, they've got some good other rules in here around don't buy webcams.
Go. What jumps out at you?
Oh, webcams are always off. Like, also buy a webcam cover to protect yourself from accidentally being on camera. There's a really good one about take sick days at one job when the other job needs focus. Fake a move or a family emergency. Fake a marriage, even. Don't think twice about the ethics. I know. Fake a move, fake a family emergency, fake a marriage. Sick day. That's a good
So
one.
I'm way down. Allie on this post, again, we're at overemployed.com, 12 rules for working remote. In the comments, Allie would add, record every conference call. Interesting. I guess if you're not on it, maybe. Manage your calendar like your life depended on it. Okay. This is like one of yours. Take vacation from all jobs at the same time so you don't get burned out. Hire help, an assistant. That's interesting, JLee. Just hire your own virtual assistant, right?
No, but you can get like a virtual assistant for like not a whole lot of money that could probably do a lot of that, like email responses and stuff like that.
Oh, so our friends over at Google or anywhere else that are looking at a pay cut because you moved to a quieter lifestyle with more affordable real estate, there's opportunity for you here. Tim, you want to go back to, you still think it's less than 1%?
I don't think it's very many. And I think partly because you have a combination of most people, I believe, are ethical. Now, I might just be, over-exaggerating how ethical and moral people are, that kind of that truth default, but or trust default. But I still think, like, for the most part, people, just aren't going to lie like that, or or fear getting caught by both, if or one, and what that might do to their reputation.
I think both of these things kind of typify. We've talked a lot about it really since this podcast started, because the world melted down 3 weeks after we started the podcast in March or February of 2020. But it just typifies that work's changing a little bit. And all of this work from home stuff is changing not only perceptions, but it's also changing actual things people are doing. I'll go with this. This is a surprise question, then we'll get out of here. Tim, what's the biggest way that the opportunity to work from home, what do you see in terms of how it's changed the world of work? What's one thing that automatically comes to mind? What's the biggest impact it's had?
I think relationships. For me, right away. It's more difficult to train new employees to get up to speed digitally. I don't think we've figured out a good way to do that.
JLee, I'll give you a second to think about it if you don't have something. I think for me, it is we've been so busy getting through COVID that if you're primarily remote, it's really kind of thinking about whatever we thought about culture, like face-to-face. I think we're all late to the game a little bit.
Yeah.
To figure out
digital
how
culture.
do we get there from a digital culture perspective. JLee, I'll let you close this out. What about you?
Probably going back to first part of the conversation, willingness to deal with commutes and some of that grind, and whether or not it's worth it, and how much you are willing to trade off to be remote, live somewhere else. And I think being in office and that whole thing I think it's going to change the way people think about commutes and all of it.
It's a quality of life thing, right, JLee? I think people for the first time in their life got a chance to not have to drive and do the commute and do all this stuff, and then go, wait a minute, life could be a little bit better. I might have to give up some things, but maybe it's for the best,
Yep. So
on a future episode of HR Famous, we'll check in with one of Tim's employees that got docked 12% for moving from Lansing to East Lansing, Michigan. We're coming in hot for that one. Hey, we're out of time. In a future episode, I had another topic. We're going to talk about SHRM as kind of white labeling their own 401k offering for employers. We'll talk about that another time. That is it for today. Work is changing for HR Famous. I'm Chris Dunn. She is Jessica Lee. He is Tim Sackett. Until next time, as always, we are out.